Silence is often misunderstood. Most people think silence means weakness, uncertainty, or fear. But in reality, silence is one of the strongest power moves a person can make. Not because it avoids conflict, but because it controls it. Look closely at people with real authority. They don't rush to respond. They don't fill every pause. They don't explain themselves the moment they feel misunderstood. They allow silence to do the work for them. Why? Because the moment you start talking too much, you shift the balance of power. You begin reacting instead of leading. Most people speak to relieve discomfort. Silence creates pressure, and pressure reveals who is in control. When you stay silent, the other person starts talking more. They explain themselves, they justify, they expose their intentions, and without realizing it, they step into the weaker position. Silence forces others to confront their own thoughts. It removes emotional noise. It slows the interaction down, and the person who controls the pace controls the frame. This is why confident people are never in a hurry to be understood. They know that authority doesn't come from clarity. It comes from presence. When you speak less, every word carries weight. When you speak constantly, your words lose value. Authority is not built by volume. It's built by restraint. Think about the last time someone stayed calm and silent in a tense situation. It probably made you uncomfortable. That discomfort wasn't weakness. It was power. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty gives leverage to the one who isn't reacting. People who lack confidence try to win with explanations. People with authority don't need to convince. They allow others to adjust. Silence also protects you. Every unnecessary word is a potential mistake. The less you say, the fewer angles people have to attack you from. Silence is strategic. It's selective. It's intentional. This doesn't mean never speaking. It means speaking only when your words add value. Silence sets the stage. Words seal the position. And once you understand this, you stop trying to prove yourself. You stop filling gaps that don't need to be filled. You stop chasing approval, because real power doesn't announce itself. It waits. Silence doesn't just create authority. It filters people. When you stop explaining yourself, many people disappear. Not because you did something wrong, but because they were never interested in understanding you. They were interested in controlling you. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. The more you explain, the more you invite judgment. The more you defend yourself, the more you signal that others are entitled to an explanation. People with authority understand this instinctively. They don't argue with every opinion. They don't correct every misunderstanding. They choose when to engage, and more importantly, when not to. Silence forces others to show their hand. When you don't react emotionally, people escalate. They talk more, they push harder, and in that process, they reveal their true motives. Silence becomes a mirror. Most conflicts don't escalate because of actions. They escalate because of words, because someone needed the last word, because someone couldn't tolerate being misunderstood, because someone felt the urge to defend their image. Authority doesn't come from winning arguments. It comes from refusing unnecessary battles. When you remain silent, you communicate confidence without saying a single word. You show that you're not dependent on validation. You show that your sense of self doesn't rise or fall based on someone else's reaction. This is why silence is so uncomfortable for insecure people. It removes their control. They can't read you. They can't predict you. They can't provoke you into revealing more than you intend. Silence also shifts respect. People listen more closely when you finally speak. Your words feel deliberate, measured, final. And that's the key difference. Weakness reacts immediately. Strength responds only when necessary. Silence is not passive. It's active restraint. It's discipline. It's choosing not to waste energy where it doesn't belong. The moment you stop over-explaining, you reclaim your time, your presence, and your authority. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop performing for approval. And slowly, something changes. People adjust their tone around you. They choose their words more carefully. They wait for your response instead of demanding it. Not because you said anything, but because you didn't. That's the power of silence. Not loud, not aggressive, just undeniable. There is a moment when silence stops being a tactic and becomes an identity. At that point, you're no longer trying to appear confident. You no longer use silence to prove anything. You're simply grounded enough not to react. This is where real authority is born. People often misunderstand quiet strength. They think silence means uncertainty, fear, or avoidance. But that's only true when silence comes from insecurity. When silence comes from clarity, it changes the entire dynamic. You don't rush to speak because you already know who you are. You don't interrupt because you're not competing for space. You don't explain because your actions already speak. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. The strongest people are selective. Selective with words, selective with energy, selective with attention. They understand that constant expression dilutes impact. Think about leaders you respect, the ones who command a room without raising their voice, the ones people listen to when they finally speak. Their authority doesn't come from volume. It comes from restraint. Silence creates gravity. When you speak less, your words carry weight. When you react less, your presence becomes steady. When you explain less, people project meaning onto you. And often, that meaning is respect. This is why silence feels risky at first. It removes the safety net of over-explaining. It forces you to trust your presence instead of your words. But once you cross that line, you realize something powerful. You don't lose control by staying silent. You gain it. You gain control over your emotions, over your time, over how others perceive you. Silence doesn't mean you never speak. It means you speak with intention. When you do, people notice. They listen, they remember. And most importantly, silence teaches others how to treat you. It sets a boundary without confrontation. It says, I'm not here to convince you. Authority isn't claimed. It's assumed. Not through dominance, not through noise, but through calm certainty. The more comfortable you become with silence, the less you need approval, the less you chase reactions, the less you feel pulled into meaningless exchanges. And that's when you realize silence wasn't taking something away from you. It was protecting what mattered. Your focus, your dignity, your authority. At some point, silence stops being a strategy and becomes a filter. It filters people. It filters situations. It filters noise from meaning. When you stop filling every gap with words, something interesting happens. The world reveals itself to you. You start seeing who talks to feel important, who reacts to feel safe, and who listens because they're confident. Most people speak to relieve tension. Strong people remain silent and let tension work in their favor. Silence forces others to reveal themselves, in meetings, in arguments, in relationships. When you don't rush to respond, people expose their intentions, their insecurities, their need for control. This is why silence feels uncomfortable to those who lack authority. It gives them nothing to grab onto. Authority isn't about being mysterious. It's about being unshaken. When you're calm in moments where others expect reaction, you create a symmetry. You're no longer playing the same emotional game. You're operating from a higher position. And here's the key realization most people miss. You don't need to win conversations to win respect. You don't need the last word. You don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to prove you're right. The need to be understood is often weaker than the ability to stand alone. Silence teaches discipline. It teaches patience. It teaches you to act instead of announce. And action, unlike words, leaves no room for debate. Over time, people begin to associate your presence with stability, with certainty, with control. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. That's why quiet authority scales. It works in leadership, in business, in personal life, in conflict. Anywhere emotions run high and clarity is rare. You don't dominate the room, you anchor it. And when you finally speak, it's not to fill space, it's to set direction. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is leverage. It allows you to choose when to engage and when to walk away. It keeps your energy intact. It prevents you from reacting to things that don't deserve access to you. In a world addicted to noise, the calm mind becomes dangerous. Not loud, not aggressive, just unmovable. This is the paradox of authority. The less you try to assert it, the more others feel it. And once you understand that, you stop chasing respect. You let silence do the work.